The Boston Red Sox are an American professional baseball team based in Boston, Massachusetts, that competes in Major League Baseball. They are members of the East Division of the American League. The Red Sox have won 8 World Series, having appeared in 12. Founded in 1901 as one of the American League's 8 charter franchises, the Red Sox's home ballpark has been Fenway Park since 1912. The Red Sox name was chosen by the team owner, John I. Taylor, around 1908, following previous Boston teams that had been known as the Red Stockings. Boston was a dominant team in the new league, defeating the Pittsburgh Pirates in the first World Series in 1903 and winning 4 more championships by 1918. However, they then went into one of the longest championship droughts in baseball history, called by some the Curse of the Bambino after its alleged beginning with the Red Sox's sale of Babe Ruth to the rival New York Yankees 2 years after their World Championship in 1918, an 86-year wait before the team's 6th World Championship in 2004. However, the team's history during that period was hardly one of futility, but was rather punctuated with some of the most memorable moments in World Series history, including Enos Slaughter's mad dash in 1946, the impossible dream of 1967, Carlton Fisk's home run in 1975, and Bill Buckner's error in 1986. Following their recent victory in the 2013 World Series, they became the first, and so far, only team to win 3 World Series trophies in the 21st century, including championships in 2004 and 2007. Red Sox history has also been marked by the team's intense rivalry with the Yankees, arguably the fiercest and most historic in North American professional sports. The Boston Red Sox are owned by Fenway Sports Group, which also own Liverpool FC. Of the Premier League in England, the Red Sox are consistently one of the top MLB teams in average road attendance, while the small capacity of Fenway Park prevents them from leading in overall attendance. From May 15, 2003 to April 10, 2013, the Red Sox sold out every home game a total of 820 games for a major professional sports record. Nickname: the name Red Sox, chosen by owner John I. Taylor after the 1907 season, refers to the red hose in the team uniform beginning 1908. Sox had been previously adopted for the Chicago White Sox by newspapers needing a headline-friendly form of stockings, as stockings win. In large type would not fit on a page. The team name Red Sox had previously been used as early as 1888 by a colored team from Norfolk, Virginia. The Spanish-language media sometimes refers to the team as Medias Rojas, a translation of Red Sox. The official Spanish site uses the variant Los Red Sox. The Red Stockings nickname was first used for a baseball team by the Cincinnati Red Stockings, who were members of the pioneering National Association of Baseball Players. Managed by Harry Wright, Cincinnati adopted a uniform with white knickers and red stockings, and earned the famous nickname, a year or 2 before hiring the first fully professional team in 1869. When the club folded after the 1870 season, Wright was hired by Boston businessman Ivers Whitney Adams to organize a new team in Boston, and he did, bringing 3 teammates and the Red Stockings nickname along. The Boston Red Stockings won 4 championships in the 5 seasons of the new National Association, the first professional league. When a new Cincinnati club was formed as a charter member of the National League in 1876, the Red Stockings nickname was commonly reserved for them once again, and the Boston team was referred to as the Red Caps. Other names were sometimes used before Boston officially adopted the nickname Braves in 1912. The club eventually left Boston for Milwaukee and is now playing in Atlanta, Georgia. In 1901, the upstart American League established a competing club in Boston. For 7 seasons, the AL team wore dark blue stockings and had no official nickname. They were simply Boston, Bostonians, or the Bostons. Or the Americans, or Boston Americans as in American leaguers, Boston being a 2-team city. Their 1901-1907 jerseys, both home and road, simply read Boston, except for 1902 when they sported large letters B and A denoting Boston, and American. Newspaper writers of the time used other nicknames for the club, including Somerset's, Plymouth Rocks, Bayonettas, the Colonsites, and Pilgrims. For years many sources have listed Pilgrims as the early Boston AL team's official nickname, but researcher Bill Nowlin has demonstrated that the name was barely used, if at all, during the team's early years. The origin of the nickname appears to be a poem entitled The Pilgrims at Home written by Edwin Fitzwilliam that was sung at the 1907 home opener. This nickname was commonly used during that season, perhaps because the team had a new manager and several rookie players. John I. Taylor had said in December 1907 that the Pilgrims sounded too much like homeless wanderers. The National League club in Boston, though seldom called the Red Stockings anymore, still wore red trim. In 1907, the National League club adopted an all-white uniform, and the American League teams saw an opportunity. On December 18, 1907, Taylor announced that the club had officially adopted red as its new team color. The 1908 uniforms featured a large icon of a red stocking angling across the shirt front. For 1908, the National League club returned to wearing red trim, but the American League team finally had an official nickname, and would remain the Red Sox for good. The name is often shortened to Bo Sox, or Bo Sox, a combination of Boston and Sox. Sports writers sometimes refer to the Red Sox as the Crimson Hose and the Oldie Town team. Recently, media has begun to casually call them the SAWX, reflecting how the word is pronounced with a New England accent. However, most fans simply refer to the team as the Sox, when the context is understood to mean Red Sox. The formal name of the entity which owns the team is Boston Red Sox Baseball Club Limited Partnership. The name shown on the door on York Way, Boston American League Baseball Company, as shown in this current-day photograph of the street dot with the stadium, is historical, predating the formation of the limited partnership on May 26, 1978. The entrance also figures in Robert B. Parker's Spencer and baseball novel Mortal Stakes. History 1901 to 1919. In 1901, the minor Western League, led by Ban Johnson, declared its equality with the National League, then the only major league in baseball. Johnson changed the name of the league to the American League, leading teams in his league to be christened with the unofficial nickname Americans. This was especially true in the case of the new Boston franchise, which would not adopt an official nickname until 1908. The upstart league placed franchises in Baltimore, Maryland and Buffalo. After looking at his new league, Ban Johnson decided that he would need a team in Boston to compete with the National League team there, and so canceled the Buffalo Club's franchise, offering one to a new club in Boston. Playing their home games at Huntington Avenue grounds, the Boston franchise finished second and third before capturing their first pennant in 1903 and repeating the next year. Those teams were led by manager and star third baseman Jimmy Collins, outfielders Chick Stahl, Buck Freeman, and Patsy Doherty, and pitcher Cy Young, who in 1901 won the pitching Triple Crown with 33 wins, 1.62 ERA and 158 strikeouts. His 1901-1904 seasons rank among the best four-year runs ever. In 1903, Boston participated in the first modern World Series, going up against the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates were heavily favored as they had won the NL pennant by 6.5 games. Aided by the modified chants of Tessie by the Royal Rooters fan club and by its stronger pitching staff, the Americans managed to overcome the odds, and win the best-of-9 series 5-3. The 1904 club was almost as good as the previous team, but due to the surprise emergence of the New York Highlanders, the Boston club found itself in a tight pennant race through the last games of the season. A predecessor to what would become a storied rivalry, this race featured such controversial moves as the trade of Patsy Doherty to the Highlanders for Bob Angelorb. The climax of the season occurred on the last, dramatic doubleheader at the Highlanders' unregistered trademark home stadium, Hilltop Park. In order to win the pennant, the Highlanders needed to win both games. With Jack Kesbro, the Highlanders' 41-game winner, on the mound, and the score tied to 2 with a man on third in the top of the ninth, a spitball got away from Kesbro and Luke Krieger scored the go-ahead run on one of the most famous wild pitches in history. Unfortunately, The NL champion New York Giants declined to play any postseason series, fearing it would give their New York rivals credibility, but a sharp public reaction led the two leagues immediately to make the World Series a permanent championship, starting in 1905. These successful times soon ended, however, as Boston lost 100 games in 1906. However, several new star players helped the newly renamed Red Sox improve almost immediately. By 1909, legendary center fielder Tris Speaker had become a fixture in the Boston outfield, and the team worked their way to third place. However, the Red Sox would not win the pennant again until their 105-win 1912 season, finishing with a club record .691 winning percentage. Anchored by an outfield considered to be among the finest in the game, Tris Speaker, Harry Hooper and Duffy Louisa, and superstar pitcher Smokey Joe Wood, the Red Sox beat the New York Giants for a 3-1 in the classic 1912 World Series, best known for Snodgrass's muff. From 1913 to 1916 the Red Sox were owned by Joseph Lannin, who signed Babe Ruth, soon the best known and one of the best players ever. Another 101 wins in 1915 propelled the Red Sox to the 1915 World Series, where they beat the Philadelphia Phillies 4-1. Following the 1915 season, Tris Speaker was traded to the Cleveland Indians. His departure was more than compensated for, however, by the emergence of star pitcher Babe Ruth. The Red Sox went on to win the 1916 World Series, this time defeating the Brooklyn Robins. In 1918, Babe Ruth led his team to another World Series championship, this time over the Chicago Cubs. Sale of Babe Ruth and aftermath. Harry Frazee bought the Red Sox from Joseph Lannin in 1916 for about $500,000. A couple of notable trades involving Harry Frazee and the Yankees occurred before the Babe Ruth sale. On December 18, 1918, outstanding outfielder Duffy Lewis, pitcher Dutch Leonard, and pitcher Ernie Shaw were traded to the Yankees for pitcher Ray Caldwell, Slim Love, Roxy Walters, Frank Gilhooly and $15,000. As all three players were well regarded in Boston, Lewis had been a key player on the 1910s championship teams. Shaw had famously relieved Babe Ruth and retired 27 straight, and Leonard had only 4 years before setting a modern record for earned run average. This trade was regarded as a poor one in Boston. Then, on July 13, 1919, submarine-style pitching star Carl Mays was traded to the Yankees for Bob McGraw, Alan Russell and $40,000. Mays would go on to have several good years for the Yankees, but had been a discipline problem for the Red Sox. On December 26, 1919, Frazee sold Babe Ruth, who had played the previous 6 seasons for the Red Sox, to the rival New York Yankees. Legend has it that Frazee did so in order to finance the Broadway play No, Nanette. That play did not actually open on Broadway until 1925, but as Lee Montville discovered during research for his book, The Big Bam, The Life and Times of Babe Ruth, No, Nanette had originated as a non-musical stage play called My Lady Friends, which opened on Broadway in December 1919. My Lady Friends had, indeed, been financed by the Ruth sale to the Yankees. During that period, the Red Sox, Yankees and Chicago White Sox had a dark copyright tent. They were called insurrectos, because their actions antagonized league president Bam Johnson. Although Frazee owned the Boston Red Sox franchise, he did not own Fenway Park, making his ownership a precarious one. Johnson could move another team into the ballpark. His club was in debt, but Frazee felt the need to purchase its playing site. Further, providing the Yankees with a box office attraction would help the mediocre club, which had sided with him against Johnson and the loyal 5 clubs. Finally, Ruth was considered a serious disciplinary problem, a reputation he amply confirmed while playing for the Yankees. Frazee moved Ruth to stabilize Red Sox finances and cut distractions. It was a straight sale, no players in return. New York achieved great success after acquiring Ruth and several other very good players. The sale of Babe Ruth came to be viewed as the beginning of the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry, considered the greatest rivalry on earth by American sports journalists. After deciding to get out of baseball, Frazee began selling many of his star players. In the winter of 1920, Wally Shang, Waite Hoyt, Harry Harper and Mike McNally were traded to the Yankees for Del Pratt, Muddy Ruel, John Costello, Hank Thurman, Sammy Vick and Cash. The following winter, Iron Man shortstop Everett Scott, and pitchers Bullet Joe Bush and Sad Sam Jones were traded to the Yankees for Roger Peckinpah, Jack Quinn, Rip Collins, Bill Piercy and $50,000. On July 23, 1922, Joe Dugan and Elmer Smith were traded to the Yankees for Elmer Miller, Chick Fuster, Johnny Mitchell, and Lefty O'Doul, who was at the time a mediocre pitching prospect. Acquiring Dugan helped the Yankees edge the St. Louis Browns in a tight pennant race, and the resulting uproar helped create a June 15 trading deadline that went into effect the next year. Perhaps an even more outrageous deal was the trade of Herb Pennock, occurring in early 1923. Pennock was traded by the Red Sox to the Yankees for Camp Skinner, Norm Macmillan, George Murray and $50,000. The loss of so much talent sent the Red Sox into free fall, even with the money Frazee earned from the trades. During the 1920s and early 1930s, they were fixtures in the second division, never finishing closer than 20 games out of first. The losses only mounted when Frazee sold the team to Bob Quinn in 1923. During an 8-year period from 1925 to 1932, the Red Sox averaged over 100 losses per season, bottoming out in 1932 with a record of 43-111, still the worst record in franchise history. One of the few bright spots on these teams was Earl Webb, who set the all-time mark for most doubles in a season in 1931 with 67. The Bo Sox unregistered trademark fortunes began to change in 1933 when Tom Yawkey bought the team. Yawkey acquired pitcher Wes Ferrell and one of the greatest pitchers of all time, Lefty Grove, making his team competitive once again in the late 30s. He also acquired Joe Cronin, an outstanding shortstop and manager, and slugging first baseman Jimmy Foggs, whose 50 home runs in 1938 would stand as a club record for 68 years. Foggs also drove in a club record 175 runs. 1939–1960, Williams era. In 1939, the Red Sox purchased the contract of outfielder Ted Williams from the minor league San Diego Padres of the Pacific Coast League, ushering in an era of the team sometimes called the Ted Sox. Williams consistently hit for both high power and high average, and is generally considered one of the greatest hitters of all time. The right field bullpens in Fenway were built in part for Williams' left-handed swing, and are sometimes called Williamsburg. Before this addition, it was over 400 feet to right field. He served 2 stints in the United States Marine Corps as a pilot and saw active duty in both World War II and the Korean War, missing at least 5 full seasons of baseball. His book The Science of Hitting is widely read by students of baseball. He is currently the last player to hit over .400 for a full season, batting .406 in 1941. Williams feuded with sports writers his whole career, calling them the Knights of the Keyboard, and his relationship with the fans was often rocky as he was seen spitting towards the stands on more than one occasion. With Williams, the Red Sox reached the 1946 World Series, but lost to the St. Louis Cardinals in 7 games in part because of the use of the Williams shift, a defensive tactic in which the shortstop would move to the right side of the infield to make it harder for the left-handed hitting Williams to hit to that side of the field. Some have claimed that he was too proud to hit to the other side of the field, not wanting to let the Cardinals take away his game. His performance may have also been affected by a pitch he took in the elbow in an exhibition game a few days earlier. Either way, in his only World Series, Williams gathered just 5 singles and 25 at-bats for a .200 average. The Cardinals won the 1946 series when Enos Slaughter scored the go-ahead run all the way from first base on a base hit to left field. The throw from Leon Culberson was cut off by shortstop Johnny Pesky, who relayed the ball to the plate just a hair too late. Some say Pesky hesitated or held the ball before he turned to throw the ball, but this has been disputed. Along with Williams and Pesky, the Red Sox featured several other star players during the 1940s, including second baseman Bobby Doerr and center fielder Dom DiMaggio. The Red Sox narrowly lost the AL pennant in 1948 and 1949. In 1948, Boston finished in a tie with Cleveland, and their loss to Cleveland in a one-game playoff ended hopes of an all-Boston World Series. Curiously, manager Joseph McCarthy chose journeyman Denny Galehouse to start the playoff game when the young lefty phenom Mel Parnell was available to pitch. In 1949, the Red Sox were one game ahead of the New York Yankees, with the only 2 games left for both teams being against each other, and they lost both of those games. The 1950s were viewed as a time of tribulation for the Red Sox. After Williams returned from the Korean War in 1953, many of the best players from the late 1940s had retired or been traded. The stark contrast in the team led critics to call the Red Sox daily lineup Ted Williams and the Seven Dwarfs. Jackie Robinson was even worked out by the team at Fenway Park, however it appeared that owner Tom Yawkey did not want an African-American player on his team at that time. Willie Mays also tried out for Boston and was highly praised by team scouts. Ted Williams hit .388 at the age of 38 in 1957, but there was little else for Boston fans to root for. Williams retired at the end of the 1960 season, famously hitting a home run in his final at-bat as memorialized in the John Updike story Hub fans bid Kid adieu. The Red Sox finally became the last major league team to field an African-American player when they promoted infielder Pumpsie Green from their AAA farm team in 1959. 1960s. The 1960s also started poorly for the Red Sox, though 1961 saw the debut of Carl Yastrzemski, Williams' replacement in left field, who developed into one of the better hitters of a pitching-rich decade. Red Sox fans know 1967 as the season of the impossible dream. The slogan refers to the hit song from the popular musical play Man of La Mancha. 1967 saw one of the great pennant races in baseball history with 4 teams in the AL pennant race until almost the last game. The Bo Sox had finished the 1966 season in 9th place, but they found new life with Yastrzemski as the team went to the 1967 World Series, only to lose the series to the St. Louis Cardinals in 7 games. Yastrzemski won the American League Triple Crown, hitting .326 with 44 home runs and 121 RBIs. He finished 1 vote short of a unanimous MVP selection, as a Minnesota sports writer placed Twins center fielder Carl copyright Zartoval first on his ballot. But the Red Sox lost the series again to the St. Louis Cardinals, in 7 games. Legendary pitcher Bob Gibson stymied the Red Sox, winning 3 games. An 18-year-old Bostonian rookie named Tony Conigliaro slugged 24 home runs in 1964. Tony C. became the youngest player in Major League Baseball to hit his 100th home run, a record that stands today. He was struck just above the left cheekbone by a fastball thrown by Jack Hamilton of the California Angels on Friday, August 18, 1967, and sat out the entire next season with headaches and blurred vision. Although he did have a productive season in 1970, he was never the same. 1970s. Although the Red Sox were competitive for much of the late 1960s and early 1970s, they never finished higher than second place in their division. The closest they came to a divisional title was 1972, when they lost by a half game to the Detroit Tigers. The start of the season was delayed by a players' strike, and the Red Sox had lost 1 more game to the strike than the Tigers had. Games lost to the strike were not made up. The Red Sox went to Detroit with a half-game lead for the final series of the season, but lost the first 2 of those 3 and were eliminated from the pennant race. 1975, the Red Sox won the AL pennant in 1975. The 1975 Red Sox were as colorful as they were talented, with Yastrzemski and rookie outfielders Jim Rice and Fred Lynn, veteran outfielder Dwight Evans, catcher Carlton Fisk, and pitchers Louis Tiant and eccentric junkler Bill the Spaceman Lee. Fred Lynn won both the American League Rookie of the Year award and the Most Valuable Player award, a feat which had never previously been accomplished, and was not duplicated until Ichiro Suzuki did it in 2001. In the 1975 American League Championship Series, the Red Sox swept the Oakland A's. In the 1975 World Series, they faced the heavily favored Cincinnati Reds, also known as the Big Red Machine. Louis Tiant won Games 1 and 4 of the World Series, but after 5 games, the Red Sox trailed the series 3-2. Game 6 at Fenway Park is considered among the greatest games in postseason history. Down 6-3 in the bottom of the 8th inning, Red Sox pinch hitter Bernie Carbo hit a 3-run homer into the center field bleachers off Reds fireman Rollie Eastwick to tie the game. In the top of the 11th inning, right fielder Dwight Evans made a spectacular catch of a Joe Morgan line drive and doubled Ken Griffey at first base to preserve the tie. In the bottom of the 12th inning, Carlton Fisk hit a deep fly ball which sliced towards the left field foul pole above the Green Monster. As the ball sailed into the night, Fisk waved his arms frantically towards fair territory, seemingly pleading with the ball not to go foul. The ball complied, and bedlam ensued at Fenway as Fisk rounded the bases to win the game for the Red Sox 7-6. The Red Sox lost Game 7, 4-3 even though they had an early 3-0 lead. Starting pitcher Bill Lee threw a slow looping curve which he called a loafers pitch, or space ball, to Reds first baseman Tony Parr, copyright Rez, who hit the ball over the Green Monster and across the street. The Reds scored the winning run in the 9th inning. Carlton Fisk said famously about the 1975 World Series, "We won that thing 3-4. 1978 pennant race. In 1978, the Red Sox and the Yankees were involved in a tight pennant race. The Yankees were 14-1 at 2 games behind the Red Sox in July, and on September 10, after completing a 4-game sweep of the Red Sox, the Yankees tied for the divisional lead. On September 16 the Yankees held a 3-1 at 2-game lead over the Red Sox, but the Sox won 11 of their next 13 games, and by the final day of the season, the Yankees' magic number to win the division was only a with a win over Cleveland or a Boston loss to the Toronto Blue Jays, clinching the division. However, New York lost 9-2 and Boston won 5-0, forcing a 1-game playoff to be held at Fenway Park on Monday, October 2. The most remembered moment from the game was Bucky Dent's 7th-inning 3-run home run in off Mike Torres just over the Green Monster, giving the Yankees their first lead. Reggie Jackson provided a solo home run in the 8th that proved to be the difference in the Yankees' 5-4 win, which ended with Yastrzemski popping out to Greg Nettles in foul territory with Rick Burleson representing the tying run at third. Although Dent became a Red Sox demon, the Red Sox would get retribution in 1990 when the Yankees fired Dent as their manager during a series at Fenway Park, 1980s. Carl Yastrzemski retired after the 1983 season, during which the Red Sox finished 6th in the 7-team AL East, posting their worst record since 1966. 1986. However, in 1986, it appeared that the team's fortunes were about to change. The offense had remained strong with Jim Rice, Dwight Evans, Don Baylor and Wade Boggs. Roger Clemens led the pitching staff, going 24-4 with a 2.48 ERA, and had a 20-strikeout game to win both the American League's Young and Most Valuable Player awards. Clemens became the first starting pitcher to win both awards since Vida Blue in 1971. The Red Sox won the AL East for the first time in 11 seasons, and faced the California Angels in the AL Championship Series. The teams split the first 2 games in Boston, but the Angels won the next 2 home games, taking a 3-1 lead in the series. With the Angels poised to win the series, the Red Sox trailed 5-2 heading into the 9th inning of Game 5. A 2-run homer by Baylor cut the lead to 1. With 2 outs and a runner on, and 1 strike away from elimination, Dave Henderson homered off Donnie Moore to put Boston up 6-5. Although the Angels tied the game in the bottom of the 9th, the Red Sox won in the 11th on a Henderson sacrifice fly off Moore. The Red Sox then found themselves with 6- and 7-run wins at Fenway Park in Games 6 and 7 to win the American League title. The Red Sox faced a heavily favored New York Mets team that had won 108 games in the regular season in the 1986 World Series. Boston won the first 2 games in Shea Stadium but lost the next 2 at Fenway, knotting the series at 2 games apiece. After Bruce Hurst recorded his second victory of the series in Game 5, the Red Sox returned to Shea Stadium looking to garner their first championship in 68 years. However, Game 6 would go down as one of the most devastating losses in club history. After pitching 7 strong innings, Clemens was lifted from the game with a 3-2 lead. Years later, manager John McNamara said Clemens was suffering from a blister and asked to be taken out of the game, a claim Clemens denied. The Mets then scored a run off reliever and former Met Calvin Giraldi to tie the score 3-3. The game went to extra innings, where the Red Sox took a 5-3 lead in the top of the 10th on a solo home run by Henderson, a double by Bogson and a BI single by second baseman Marty Barrett. After recording 2 outs in the bottom of the 10th, a graphic appeared on the NBC telecast hailing Barrett as the player of the game, and Bruce Hurst had been named World Series MVP. A message even appeared briefly on the Shea Stadium scoreboard congratulating the Red Sox as world champions. After so many years of abject frustration, Red Sox fans around the world could taste victory. With the count at 2-1, Mets catcher Gary Carter hit a single. It was followed by singles by Kevin Mitchell and Ray Knight. With Mookie Wilson batting, a wild pitch by Bob Stanley tied the game at 5. Wilson then hit a slow ground ball to first. The ball rolled through Bill Buckner's legs, allowing Knight to score the winning run from second. While Buckner was singled out as responsible for the loss, many observers as well as both Wilson and Buckner have noted that even if Buckner had fielded the ball cleanly, the speedy Wilson probably would still have been safe, leaving the game-winning run at third with 2 out. Many observers questioned why Buckner was in the game at that point considering he had bad knees and that Dave Stapleton had come in as a late-inning defensive replacement in prior series games. It appeared as though McNamara was trying to reward Buckner for his long and illustrious career by leaving him in the game. After falling behind 3-0, the Mets then won Game 7, concluding the devastating collapse and feeding the myth that the Red Sox were cursed. This World Series loss had a strange twist. Red Sox general manager Lou Gorman was vice president, player personnel, of the Mets from 1980 to 1983. Working under Mets GM Frank Cashen, with whom Gorman served with the Orioles, he helped lay the foundation for the Mets championship. 1988 to Euro 1991, the Red Sox returned to the postseason in 1988. With the club in 4th place midway through the 1988 season at the All-Star break, manager John McNamara was fired and replaced by Joe Morgan on July 15. Immediately the club won 12 games in a row, and 19 of 20 overall, to surge to the AL East title in what would be referred to as Morgan Magic. But the magic was short-lived, as the team was swept by the Oakland Athletics in the ALCS. Ironically, the MVP of that series was former Red Sox pitcher and Baseball Hall of Fame player Dennis Eckersley, who saved all 4 wins for Oakland. 2 years later, in 1990, the Red Sox would again win the division and face the Athletics in the ALCS. However, the outcome was the same, with the A's sweeping the ALCS in 4 straight. In 1990, Yankees fans started to chant 1918 to taunt the Red Sox. The demeaning chant would echo at Yankee Stadium each time the Red Sox were there. Also, Fenway Park became the scene of Bucky Dent's worst moment as a manager, although it was where he had his greatest triumph. In June, when the Red Sox swept the Yankees during a 4-game series at Fenway Park, the Yankees fired Dent as their manager. Red Sox fans felt retribution to Dent being fired on their field, but the Yankees used him as a scapegoat. However, Dan Shaughnessy of the Boston Globe severely criticized Yankees owner George Steinbrenner for firing Dent his 18th managerial change in as many years since becoming owner in Boston, and said he should have waited until the Yankees got to Baltimore to fire Dent. He said that if Dent had been fired in Seattle or Milwaukee, this would have been just another event in an endless line of George's jettisons. But happened in Boston and the nightly news had its hook. The firing was only special because it's the first time a Yankee manager who was also a Red Sox owner was purged on the ancient Indian burial grounds of the Back Bay. 1992 – 2001. Tom Yawkey died in 1976, and his wife Gina Yawkey took control of the team until her death in 1992. Their initials are shown in two stripes on the left field wall in Morse code. Upon Jean's death, control of the team passed to the Yawkey Trust, led by John Harrington. The trust sold the team in 2002, concluding 70 years of Yawkey ownership. In 1994, general manager Lou Gorman was replaced by Dan Duquette, a Massachusetts native who had worked for the Montreal Expos. Duquette revived the team's farm system, which during his tenure produced players such as Nomar Garciaparra, Carl Pavano and David Eckstein. Duquette also spent money on free agents, notably an 8-year, $160 million deal for Manny Ramirez after the 2000 season. The Red Sox won the newly realigned American League East in 1995, finishing 7 games ahead of the Yankees. However, they were swept in 3 games in the ALDS by the Cleveland Indians. Their postseason losing streak reached 13 straight games, dating back to the 1986 World Series. Roger Clemens tied his major league record by fanning 20 Detroit Tigers on September 18, 1996 in what would prove to be one of his final appearances in a Red Sox uniform. After Clemens had turned 30 and then had 4 seasons, 1993–96, which were by his standards mediocre at best, Duquette said the pitcher was entering the twilight of his career. Clemens went on to pitch well for another 10 years and win 4 more Cy Young awards. Out of contention in 1997, the team traded closer Heathcliff Slocum to Seattle for catching prospect Jason Varitek and right-handed pitcher Derek Lowe. Prior to the start of the 1998 season, the Red Sox dealt pitchers Tony Armas, Jr. and Carl Pavano to the Montreal Expos for pitcher Pedro Martinez. Martinez became the anchor of the team's pitching staff and turned in several outstanding seasons. In 1998, the team won the American League wild card, but again lost the American League Division Series to the Indians. In 1999, Duquette called Fenway Park economically obsolete, and, along with Red Sox ownership, led a push for a new stadium. On the field, the 1999 Red Sox were finally able to overturn their fortunes against the Indians. Cleveland took a 2-0 series lead, but Boston won the next 3 games behind strong pitching by Derek Lowe, Pedro Martinez and his brother Romarcube Den Martinez. Game 4's 23-7 win by the Red Sox was the highest-scoring playoff game in Major League history. Game 5 began with the Indians taking a 5-2 lead after 2 innings, but Pedro Martinez, nursing a shoulder injury, came on in the 4th inning and pitched 6 innings without allowing a hit while the team's offense rallied for a 12-8 win behind 2 home runs and 7 RBIs from outfielder Troy O'Leary. After the ALDS victory, the Red Sox lost the American League Championship Series to the Yankees, 4-1. The one bright spot was a lopsided win for the Red Sox in the much-hyped Martinez-Clemens game. 2002–present, John Henry era, 2002–03. In 2002, the Red Sox were sold by Yawkey trustee and President Harrington to New England Sports Ventures, a consortium headed by principal owner John Henry. Tom Werner served as executive chairman, Larry Lucchino served as president and CEO, and serving as vice chairman was Les Otten. Dan Duquette was fired as GM of the club on February 28, with former Angels GM Mike Port taking the helm for the 2002 season. A week later, manager Joe Kerrigan was fired and was replaced by Grady Little. While nearly all off-season moves were made under Duquette, such as signing outfielder Johnny Damon away from the Oakland Athletics, the new ownership made additions such as outfielder Cliff Floyd and relief pitcher Alan Embry. Nomar Garciaparra, Manny Ramirez, and Floyd all hit well, while Pedro Martinez put up his usual outstanding numbers. Derek Lowe, newly converted into a starter, won 20 games a Euro, becoming the first player to save 20 games and win 20 games in back-to-back seasons. After failing to reach the playoffs, Port was replaced by Yale University graduate Theo Epstein. Epstein, raised in Brookline, Massachusetts, and just 28 at the time of his hiring, became the youngest general manager in MLB history. The 2003 team was known as the Cowboy Up Team, a nickname derived from first baseman Kevin Miller's challenge to his teammates to show more determination. In the 2003 American League Division Series, the Red Sox rallied from a 0-2 series deficit against the Athletics to win the best-of-5 series. Derek Lowe returned to his former relief pitching role to save Game 5, a 4-3 victory. The team then faced the Yankees in the 2003 American League Championship Series. In Game 7, Boston led 5-2 in the 8th inning, but Pedro Martinez allowed 3 runs to tie the game. The Red Sox could not score off Mariano Rivera over the last 3 innings and eventually lost the game 6-5 when Yankee third baseman Aaron Boone hit a solo home run off of Tim Wakefield. Some placed the blame for the loss on manager Grady Little for failing to remove starting pitcher Martinez in the 8th inning after some observers believe he began to show signs of tiring. Others credited Little with the team's successful season and dramatic come-from-behind victory in the ALDS. Nevertheless, Boston's management did not renew Little's contract, and hired former Philadelphia Phillies manager Terry Francona. The Idiots' 2004 World Series Championship. During the 2003-04 off-season, the Red Sox acquired another ace pitcher, Curt Schilling, and a closer, Keith Foulke. Due to some mid-season struggles with injuries, management shook up the team at the July 31 trading deadline as part of a 4-team trade. The Red Sox traded the team's popular, yet oft-injured, shortstop Nomar Garciaparra and outfielder Matt Merton to the Chicago Cubs, and received first baseman Doug Mientkiewicz from the Minnesota Twins, and shortstop Orlando Cabrera from the Montreal Expos. In a separate transaction, the Red Sox acquired center fielder Dave Roberts from the Los Angeles Dodgers. Following the trades, the club won 22 out of 25 games and qualified for the playoffs as the AL wild card. Players and fans affectionately referred to the players as the Idiots, a term coined by Damon and Miller during the playoff push to describe the team's eclectic roster and devil-may-care attitude toward their supposed curse. Boston began the postseason by sweeping the AL West champion Anaheim Angels in the ALDS. In the third game of the series, David Ortiz hit a walk-off 2-run homer in the 10th inning to win the game and the series to advance to a rematch of the previous year's ALCS in the ALCS against the Yankees. The ALCS started very poorly for the Red Sox, as they lost the first 3 games. In Game 4, the Red Sox found themselves facing elimination, trailing 4-3 in the 9th with Mariano Rivera in to close for the Yankees. After Rivera issued a walk to Miller, Roberts came on to pinch run and promptly stole second base. He then scored on an RBI single by Bill Mueller, sending the game into extra innings. The Red Sox went on to win the game on a 2-run home run by Ortiz in the 12th inning, who also made the walk-off hit in the 14th inning of Game 5. The comeback continued with a victory from an injured Schilling in Game 6. 3 sutures being used to stabilize the tendon in Schilling's right ankle bled throughout the game, famously making his sock appear bloody red. The Red Sox completed their historic comeback in Game 7 with a 10-3 defeat of the Yankees. Ortiz, who had the game-winning RBIs in Games 4 and 5, was named ALCS Most Valuable Player. The Red Sox joined the 1942 Toronto Maple Leafs and 1975 New York Islanders as the only professional sports teams in history at the time to win a best-of-7 games series after being down 3-0. The 2009-10 Philadelphia Flyers and the 2013-14 Los Angeles Kings would also accomplish the feat. The Red Sox swept the St. Louis Cardinals in the 2004 World Series. The Red Sox never trailed throughout the series. Mark Bellhorns hit a game-winning home run off Pesky's pole in Game 1, and Schilling pitched another blooded sock victory in Game 2, followed by similarly masterful pitching performances by Martinez and Derek Lowe. It was the Red Sox' first championship in 86 years. Manny Ramirez was named World Series MVP. To add a final, surreal touch to Boston's championship season, on the night of Game 4 a total lunar eclipse colored the moon red over Busch Stadium. The Red Sox earned many accolades from the sports media and throughout the nation for their incredible season, such as in December, when Sports Illustrated named the Boston Red Sox the 2004 Sportsman of the Year, 2005-06. The 2005 AL East would be decided on the last weekend of the season, with the Yankees coming to Fenway Park with a one-game lead in the standings. The Red Sox won 2 of the 3 games to finish the season with the same record as the Yankees, 95-67. However, a playoff was not needed, as the loser of such a playoff would still make the playoffs as a wild card team. As the Yankees had won the season series, they were awarded the division title, and the Red Sox competed in the playoffs as the wild card. Boston failed to defend their championship, and was swept in 3 games by the eventual 2005 World Series champion Chicago White Sox in the first round of the playoffs. After the season, general manager Theo Epstein resigned rather than accept a contract extension. In November 2005, the Red Sox announced the acquisition of pitcher Josh Beckett and third baseman Mike Lowell from the Florida Marlins, while sending several prospects including Hanley Ramirez to the Marlins. Fan favorite Johnny Damon signed a 4-year, $52 million deal with the rival Yankees, whom he had earlier vowed never to play for. The team filled the vacancy in center field by trading for Cleveland Indians center fielder Coco Crisp. However, Crisp fractured his left index finger in April and would end up missing over 50 games in 2006. Meanwhile, in January 2006, Epstein came to terms with the Red Sox and was once again named general manager. The revamped Red Sox infield, with third baseman Lowell joining new shortstop Alex Gonzalez, second baseman Mark Loretta, and first baseman Kevin Youkilis was one of the best fielding infields in baseball. The Red Sox committed the fewest errors in the American League in 2006, and set a major league record of 17 consecutive errorless games. One of the brightest spots of the 2006 season was the emergence of new closer Jonathan Papelbon, who became the first Red Sox rookie to be credited with 35 saves, earning an All-Star appearance. Also, David Ortiz broke Jimmy Fogg's single-season Red Sox home run record by hitting 54 homers. However, Boston failed to make the playoffs after compiling a 9-21 record in the month of August due to injuries to catcher Jason Varitek, outfielder Trot Nixon, outfielder Manny Ramirez, pitcher Tim Wakefield, rookie pitcher John Lester, and pitcher Matt Clement. The Red Sox failed to make the playoffs as a result. 2007 World Series Championship. Theo Epstein's first step toward restocking the team for 2007 was to pursue one of the most anticipated acquisitions in baseball history. On November 14, MLB announced that Boston had won the bid for the rights to negotiate a contract with Japanese Nippon Professional Baseball superstar pitcher Daisuke Matsuzaka. Boston placed a bid of $51.1 million to negotiate with Matsuzaka and completed a 6-year, $52 million contract after they were announced as the winning bid. The Red Sox moved into first place in the AL East by mid-April and never relinquished their division lead. Initially, rookie second baseman Dustin Pedroia underperformed, hitting below .200 in April. Manager Terry Francona refused to bench him and his patience paid off as Pedroia eventually won the AL Rookie of the Year award for his performance that season, which included 165 hits and a .317 batting average. On the mound, Josh Beckett emerged as the ace of the staff with his first 20-win season, as fellow starting pitchers Schilling, Matsuzaka, Wakefield and Julian Tavares all struggled at times. Relief pitcher Hideki Okajima, another recent arrival from the NPB, posted an ERA of 0.88 through the first half and was selected for the All-Star game. Okajima finished the season with a 2.22 ERA and 5 saves, emerging as one of baseball's top relievers. Minor league call-up Clay Buchholz provided a spark on September 1 by pitching a no-hitter in his second career start. The Red Sox captured their first AL East title since 1995. The Red Sox swept the Angels in the ALDS. Facing the Cleveland Indians in the ALCS, the Red Sox fell in games 2, 3, and 4 before Beckett picked up his second victory of the series in Game 5, starting a comeback. The Red Sox captured their 12th American League pennant by outscoring the Indians 30-5 over the final 3 games. The Red Sox faced the Colorado Rockies in the 2007 World Series, and swept the Rockies in 4 games. In Game 4, Wakefield gave up his spot in the rotation to a recovered Jon Lester, who gave the Red Sox an impressive start, pitching 5 shutout innings. Key home runs late in the game by third baseman Mike Lowell and pinch hitter Bobby Futility secured the Red Sox' second title in 4 years, as Lowell was named World Series MVP. 2008-2012, Injuries and Collapses. The Red Sox struggled with injuries throughout the 2008 season. Injuries to Schilling, relief pitcher Mike Timlin, and Beckett landed each pitcher on the disabled list before the 2008 season began, putting added pressure on young starters Lester and Pujols. Lester emerged as an anchor in the Red Sox rotation, leading the team in starts and innings pitched while compiling a 16-6 record and a 3.21 ERA. Pujols meanwhile struggled mightily in 2008 to a 2.9 record, ending up back in the minor leagues. The Red Sox began their season by participating in the third opening day game in MLB history to be played in Japan, where they defeated the Oakland A's in the Tokyo Dome. On May 19, Lester threw the 18th no-hitter in team history, defeating the Kansas City Royals 7-0. However, despite early Red Sox success, the surprise Tampa Bay Rays led the AL East in early July. Injuries would take a toll on the Red Sox offense during the season, most notably when David Ortiz missed 45 games with an injured wrist, Mike Lowell missed weeks with a torn hip labrum, and outfielder J.D. Drew aggravated a back injury that shelved him for much of the second half of the season. Down the stretch, outfielder Manny Ramirez became embroiled in controversy surrounding public incidents with fellow players and other team employees, as well as criticism of ownership and not playing, which some claimed was due to laziness and non-existent injuries. The front office decided to move the disgruntled outfielder at the July 31 trade deadline, shipping him to the Dodgers in a 3-way deal with the Pittsburgh Pirates that landed them Jason Bay to replace him in left field. With Ramirez gone, and Bay providing a new spark in the lineup, the Red Sox improved vastly and made the playoffs as the AL wild card. Ramirez ended up with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Behind the strong playoff pitching of Lester, the Red Sox defeated the Angels in the 2008 ALDS 3-1. The Red Sox then took on their AL East rivals the Tampa Bay Rays in the ALCS. Down 3-1 in the 5th game of the ALCS, Boston mounted a comeback from trailing 7-0 in the 7th inning to win 8-7. They tied the series at 3 games apiece with a Game 6 victory before losing Game 7, 3-1, thus becoming the 8th team in a row since 2000 to fail to repeat as world champions. In 2009, the Red Sox got into a rough start, but then won 11 games in a row. During the first half of the season, star slugger David Ortiz had a very bad slump with a .185 average and 1 sole home run. In response to poor offensive performance and to make room for Jed Lowrie's return from injury, shortstop Julio Lugo was traded to the St. Louis Cardinals for cash and 2 minor league players were traded to the Pirates for first baseman Adam LaRoche on July 22, who was soon traded to the Atlanta Braves for Casey Kotchman. The Red Sox made a big move at the July 31 trade deadline, acquiring catcher Victor Martinez from the Cleveland Indians for 3 pitchers. The Red Sox lost the last 6 games of the 2009 season to place the team second in the AL East, with the Yankees. The Red Sox entered the playoffs via the wild card, but were swept by the Los Angeles Angels in 3 games. The Red Sox 2010 season was highlighted by its many injuries to its players despite new additions to the team such as starting pitcher John Lackey, outfielder Mike Cameron and infielder Marco Scutaro. Matsuzaka, Pedroia, and Youkilis ended the season early to recover their health, and Ellsbury spent most of the season on the bench due to injuries. The Red Sox missed the playoffs for the first time since 2006, finishing in 3rd place in the AL East. After the season, Lowell decided to retire. the Red Sox acquired superstar first baseman Adrian Gonzalez in a trade with the San Diego Padres and signed speedy outfielder Carl Crawford as an attempt to help the team return to the playoffs. Entering the 2011 season, expectations were sky-high and some baseball analysts even went as far as comparing the 2011 Red Sox to the legendary 1927 Yankees. Despite the positive preseason predictions, the Red Sox struggled early in 2011, falling to an 0-6 start for the first time since 1945. However, they gradually made their way into playoff contention by July, thanks to a potent offense which made up for a decimated pitching staff. Matsuzaka and Buchholz ended their season with injuries, while new additions such as Andrew Miller, Alfredo Akives and relief pitcher Daniel Bard proved their worth filling in for injured pitchers. After rookie pitcher Carl Whelan proved ineffective, the Red Sox made a three-way trade, giving up some prospects for a Perma Rick Barr copyright Dard. Due to further injuries in September, the Red Sox lost 11 out of 14 in that month, and their postseason aspirations were ultimately destroyed on September 28, 2011, losing to the Orioles by a score of 4-3 while the Rays clinched the American League wild card with a win over the Yankees on the same night. The Red Sox missed the playoffs in consecutive seasons for the first time since missing 3 straight postseasons from 2000 to 2002. Following the season, the Red Sox declined to exercise Terry Francona's 2012 contract option. After the season, there was much controversy when it was claimed that the clubhouse didn't have solid leadership. On some days, starting pitchers Lackey, Beckett, and Lester spent time in the dugout drinking. Lester and the rest of the responsible pitchers stressed that they were only drinking when they had the day off pitching. After the tumultuous end of the season, Theo Epstein left for the Chicago Cubs and was replaced by his previous assistant, Ben Cherington. In December 2011, Bobby Valentine was hired as a new manager. At about the same time, longtime closer Pape Alban signed with the Philadelphia Phillies rather than re-sign with the Red Sox. The 2012 season marked the centennial of Fenway Park, and on April 20, past and present Red Sox players and coaches assembled to celebrate the park's anniversary. However, the collapse that they endured in September 2011 carried over into the season. The Red Sox struggled throughout the season due to injuries, inconsistent play, and off-field news. Many attempts to better the team through trades and free agent signing failed. Amidst rumors that Valentine and Youkilis were not getting along, the Red Sox traded Youkilis to the Chicago White Sox on June 24. On August 25, the Red Sox sent struggling players Gonzalez, Beckett, Crawford and infielder Nick Punto to the Los Angeles Dodgers for James Loney and 4 minor league prospects. In addition to the clubhouse drinking, Beckett was also heavily connected to another incident where some of the players attended his charity bowling game rather than the funeral for Johnny Pesky, a longtime Red Sox shortstop, manager, and coach who died on August 13. Coupled with a bizarre and inconsistent season, the one-time ace became a pariah to Red Sox Nation. The Red Sox, realizing that the postseason was not in reach, decided to build with talent from their minor league system. Over the next few months, minor league call-ups Will Middlebrooks, Pedro Siriaco, Ryan Lavorenway and Daniel Nava were making regular appearances for the Red Sox. The Red Sox finished 69-93 for their first losing season since 1997, and their worst season since 1965. Bobby Valentine was subsequently fired on October 4, 2012. Valentine has been replaced by John Farrell, who had spent the previous 2 seasons as manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. Farrell was the pitching coach for the Red Sox from 2007 to 2010 before becoming manager of the Blue Jays. Boston Strong, 2013 World Series champions. Boston, which finished last in the American League East with a 69-93 record in 2012 26 games behind the Yankees, became the 11th team in Major League history to go from worst in the division to first the next season when it clinched the AL East Division title on September 21, 2013. Many credit the team's turnaround with the hiring of manager John Farrell, the former Red Sox pitching coach under Terry Francona from 2007 to 2010. As a former member of the staff, He had the respect of influential players such as Lester, Pedroia, and Ortiz. But there were other moves made in the off-season by general manager Ben Cherington who targeted character players to fill the team's needs. These acquisitions included veteran catcher David Ross, Johnny Gomez, Mike Napoli, and Shane Victorino. While some questioned these players as retreads, it was clear that Cherington was trying to move past 2011 and Euro 2012 by bringing in clubhouse players. Essential to the turnaround, however, was the pitching staff. With ace veteran John Lackey coming off Tommy John surgery and both John Lester and Clay Buchholz returning to their prior form, this allowed the team to rely less on their bullpen. Everything seemed in danger of collapsing, however, when both closers, Joel Hanrahan and Andrew Bailey, went down early with season-ending injuries. Farrell gave the closing job to Koji Uehara on June 21, who delivered with a 1.09 ERA and an MLB record 0.565 WHIP. On September 11, the 37-year-old right-hander set a new Red Sox record when he retired 33 straight batters. Other reasons include the trade deadline acquisition of pitcher Jake Peavy when the Red Sox were in second place in the AL East, the depth of the bench with players such as Mike Carp and rookies Jackie Bradley, Jr. and Xander Bogaerts, and the re-emergence of players such as Will Middlebrooks and Daniel Nava. On September 28, 2013, the team secured home field advantage throughout the American League playoffs when their closest competition, the Oakland Athletics, lost. The next day, the team finished the season going 97-65, the best record in the American League and tied with the St. Louis Cardinals for the best record in baseball. They proceeded to defeat the St. Louis Cardinals in the 2013 World Series, 4-2. The Red Sox became the first team since the 1991 Minnesota Twins to win the World Series a year after finishing in last place, and the second overall. The 2012 Red Sox .426 winning percentage was the lowest for a team in a season prior to a World Series championship. Throughout the season, the Red Sox players and organization formed a close association with the city of Boston and its people in relation to the Boston Marathon bombings that occurred on April 15, 2013. On April 20, the day after the alleged bombers were captured, David Ortiz gave a pre-game speech following a ceremony honoring the victims and the local law enforcement, in which he stated, "This is our fucking city. And nobody is going to dictate our freedom. Stay strong." For the entirety of the season, the team wore an additional arm patch that exhibited the Red Sox B logo and the word "strong" within a blue circle. The team also hung up in the dugout a custom jersey that read Boston Strong with the number 617, representing the city of Boston's area code. On many occasions during the season, victims of the attack and law enforcement involved were given the honor of throwing the ceremonial first pitch. Following their victory in the 2013 World Series, the first one clinched at home in Fenway Park since 1918, Red Sox players Johnny Gomez and Jarrod Saltalamacchia performed a ceremony during the team's traditional duck boat victory parade, in which they placed the World Series trophy and the custom 617 jersey on the Boston Marathon finish line on Boylston Street, followed by a moment of silence and a singing of God Bless America. This ceremony helped the city reclaim its spirit that was lost after the bombing. Overall, the Red Sox team and organization played a role in the healing process after the tragedy, owing to the team's unifying effect on the city. 2014 season. Gone from Boston's 2013 roster recall players such as center fielder Jacoby Ellsbury, catcher Jarrod Saltalamacchia, and pitcher Ryan Dempster. To help replace their needs, the Red Sox added catcher A.J. Pierzynski, and outfielder Grady Sizemore, while also calling up young stars, outfielder Jackie Bradley Jr., and third baseman Xander Bogaerts. During the season, the Red Sox struggled and released a number of veteran players including Sizemore, Pierzynski, and Chris Cafuano while promoting top prospects such as Christian Vazquez and Mookie Betts. At the end of July, the Red Sox traded away a number of members of the 2013 team, Felix Dauer-Bront, Jake Peavy, John Lackey, Johnny Gomez, Stephen Drew, and John Lester. Current roster, uniform. Spring training. Truck Day. The unofficial beginning of the spring training season for the Red Sox is Truck Day, the day a tractor-trailer filled with equipment leaves Fenway Park bound for the Sox spring training facility in Florida. Truck Day 2014 took place on Saturday, February 8. City of Palms Park. Former left fielder Mike Greenwell is from Fort Myers, Florida and was instrumental in bringing his team to the city for spring training. City of Palms Park was built in 1992 for that purpose and holds 8,000 people. It is also the home of the Red Sox rookie team, the Gulf Coast League Red Sox, from April through June. JetBlue Park. On October 28, 2008, the Lee County Commission voted 3-1 to approve an agreement with the Boston Red Sox to build a new spring training facility for the team in South Lee County. Commissioner Brian Bigelow was the lone dissenting vote. Commissioner Bob Janes was not present for the vote, but stated that he supported it. D was present in the chambers for the vote, and took the agreement back to Boston to meet with John Henry and other team officials. On November 1, 2008, the Red Sox signed an agreement with Lee County that will keep their spring training home in the Fort Myers area for 30 more years. Wednesday, April 30, 2009, the Lee County Commissioners selected the Waterman Pinnacle site on Daniels Parkway as the site for the new facility. The backup choice, if negotiations between county staff and the developer falter, is the University Highland site just north of Germain Arena in Estero. Jeff Mudgett, a Fort Myers architect who is volunteering his time toward the project, envisions a facility with a mini Fenway Park that would open for spring 2012. On March 29, 2011, it was announced that the new field would be named JetBlue Park at Fenway South. The park was named JetBlue Park after JetBlue Airlines, which has maintained major operations at Boston's Logan International Airport since 2004. Many characteristics of the stadium will be taken from Fenway Park, including a 37-foot green monster wall in left field, featuring seating on top of and behind the wall. Included in the wall will be a restored version of the manual scoreboard that was housed at Fenway for almost 30 years, beginning in the 1970s. The field dimensions at JetBlue Park will be identical to those at Fenway. Rivalry with the Yankees. The Yankees-Red Sox rivalry is one of the oldest, most famous and fiercest rivalries in professional sports. For over 100 years, the Red Sox and New York Yankees have been rivals. The rivalry is often a heated subject of conversation in the northeastern United States. Since the inception of the Wild Card team and an added division series, every playoffs has featured one or both of the American League East rivals, and they both have squared off in the American League Championship Series 3 times, with the Yankees winning twice in 1999 and 2003 and the Sox winning in 2004. In addition, the teams have twice met in the last regular season series of a season to decide of the league title, in 1904 and 1949. The teams also finished tied for first in 1978, when the Yankees won a high-profile one-game playoff for the division title. The 1978 division race is memorable for the Red Sox having held a 14-game lead over the Yankees more than halfway through the season. Similarly, the 2004 AL Championship Series is notable for the Yankees leading 3-0 and ultimately losing a best-of-7 series. The Red Sox comeback was the only time in baseball history that a team has come back from a 0-3 deficit to win a series. The rivalry is often termed the best and greatest rivalry in all of sports. Games between the two teams often generate a great deal of interest and get extensive media coverage, including being broadcast on national television, radio and television. Currently, the flagship radio station of the Red Sox is WEEI, 850 AM. Joe Castiglione, in his 25th year as the voice of the Red Sox, serves as the lead play-by-play announcer, along with Dave O'Brien and John Risch. Some of Castiglione's predecessors include Kurt Gowdy, Ken Coleman, and Ned Martin. He has also worked with play-by-play veterans Bob Starr and Jerry Trupiano. Many stations throughout New England and beyond pick up the broadcasts. All Red Sox telecasts not shown nationally on Fox or ESPN are seen on New England Sports Network, with Don Orsillo calling play-by-play and Jerry Remy, former Red Sox second baseman, as color analyst. During Remy's recovery from cancer, former Red Sox players Dennis Eckersley and Dave Roberts have alternated doing color commentary. NESN became exclusive in 2006. Before then, games were shown on such local stations as WBZ-TV, WSBK-TV, WLVI, WABU, and WFXT at various points in team history. Other platforms, the widespread growth of mobile devices and social media have caused the Red Sox to expand its team update information into other platforms. Some off-air news updates via social media take place including on Facebook, Google+, and Twitter. Retired numbers. The Red Sox have two official requirements for a player to have his number retired: election to the National Baseball Hall of Fame, at least 10 years played with the Red Sox. The Red Sox previously had a requirement that the player must have finished their career with Red Sox, but this was reconsidered after the election of Carlton Fisk to the Hall of Fame. Fisk actually retired with the White Sox, but then GM Dan Duquette hired him for one day as a special assistant, which allowed Fisk to technically end his career with the Red Sox. After that, with the anticipation that there might be other former Red Sox players who would be denied the chance to have their number retired by the club, the team dropped the rule. Some would argue that the third rule still exists de facto, as Boggs' number 26 has not been retired by Boston even though he meets the two official requirements. But the Red Sox, who inducted Boggs into their Team Hall of Fame in 2004, won't retire his number. "They told me there's criteria," Boggs said to the Boston Globe. "You have to end your career as a Red Sox." The only exception that has been made to date is for former Boston shortstop Johnny Pesky, whose number 6 was retired on September 28, 2008. Pesky neither spent 10 years as a player nor was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. However, Red Sox ownership cited his versatility of his contributions on the field, off the field, and in the dugout, including as a manager, scout, and special instructor, and decided that the honor had been well earned. The number 42 was officially retired by Major League Baseball in 1997, but Mo Vaughn was one of a handful of players to continue wearing number 42 through a grandfather clause. He last wore it for the team in 1998. In commemoration of Jackie Robinson Day, MLB invited players to wear the number 42 for games played on April 15. Coco Crisp, David Ortiz, and DeMarlo Hale did that in 2007 and again in 2008. Starting in 2009, MLB had all uniformed players for all teams wear number 42 for Jackie Robinson Day. While not officially retired, the Red Sox have not issued several numbers since the departure of prominent figures who wore them, specifically, 21 Roger Clemens RHP. 33, Jason Varitek C. Retired as member of Red Sox. 45, Pedro Martinez RHP. 49, Tim Wakefield RHP. Retired as member of Red Sox. Even if elected into baseball's Hall of Fame, Martinez would not qualify to have their uniform number retired based on the above 10-year policy. There has also been debate in Boston media circles and among fans about the potential retiring of Tony Conigliaro's number 25. Nonetheless, since Conigliaro's last full season in Boston, 1970, the number has been assigned to 15 players, a coach, and a manager. Number 25 is currently worn by OF Jackie Bradley, Jr. Until the late 1990s, the numbers originally hung on the right field facade in the order in which they were retired, 9 a Euro 4 a Euro 1 a Euro 8. It was pointed out that the numbers, when read as a date, marked the eve of the first game of the 1918 World Series, the last championship series that the Red Sox won before 2004. After the facade was repainted, the numbers were rearranged in numerical order. In 2012, the numbers were rearranged again in chronological order of retirement followed by Robinson's 42. Baseball Hall of Famers. Ford C. Frick Award recipients. Minor league affiliations, other notable seasons and team records. Muma Garcia para hit .372 in 2000, the club record for a right-handed hitter. David Ortiz in 2005 had 47 home runs and 148 RBIs. He also had many game-winning and timely hits and came in second in the MVP voting to the New York Yankees' Alex Rodriguez. David Ortiz had a franchise record-breaking 2006 season with 54 home runs in the regular season. On April 22, 2007, Manny Ramirez, J.D. Drew, Mike Lowell, and Jason Varitek hit 4 consecutive home runs in the third inning off 10 pitches from Chase Wright of the New York Yankees in his second Major League start and his 4th above Single-A ball. This was the 5th time in Major League history, and first time in Red Sox history this feat has occurred. Notable is that J.D. Drew had previously contributed to a 4 consecutive home run sequence on September 18, 2006 while with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Additionally, then Red Sox manager Terry Francona's father, Tito Francona, also was a part of such a 4 consecutive home run sequence for the Cleveland Indians in 1963. The overall regular season winning percentage since club inception in 1901 is .516, a record of 85-95 80-65 for games played through July 9, 2008. They started 2007 with winning percentage of 0.512. On September 1, 2007, Clay Buchholz no-hit the Baltimore Orioles in his second Major League start. He is the first Red Sox rookie and 17th Red Sox pitcher to throw a no-hitter. On September 22, 2007, with a victory over the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, the Red Sox clinched a spot in the postseason for the 4th time in 5 years, the first time in club history this has happened. Also, with this postseason berth, manager Terry Francona becomes the first manager in team history to lead the club to 3 playoff appearances. Between May 15, 2003 and April 10, 2013, the Red Sox sold out every home game. The 820-game streak is a record for all major American sports, narrowly passing the Portland Trail Blazers record of 814 between 1977 and 1995. The previous Major League Baseball record had been held by the Cleveland Indians, who sold out 455 games between June 12, 1995 and April 2, 2001. On May 21, 2011, the Red Sox played against the Chicago Cubs at Fenway Park for the first time since the 1918 World Series. Both teams wore uniforms that matched the style worn in 1918. See also: List of Major League Baseball franchise postseason streaks, Boston Red Sox all-time roster, award winners and league leaders, Laureus World Sports Awards, managers and ownership of the Boston Red Sox, postseason droughts, statistical records and milestone achievements, Tony Canigliaro Award, the Jimmy Fund, Fever Pitcher a film covering the 2004 Boston Red Sox championship run from a fan-based point of view. Red Sox Rule a 2008 book written by Michael Holley, notes. References: Nowlin, Bill. Prime, Jim. Feud, The Red Sox, the Yankees, and the Struggle of Good vs. Evil. Rounder Books. ISBN A1-57940-111-2. Stout, Glenn. Johnson, Richard A. Red Sox Century. Houghton Mifflin Company. ISBN A0-395-88417-9. Frommer, Harvey. Frommer, Frederick J. Red Sox vs. Yankees, The Great Rivalry. Sports Publishing, LLC. ISBN A1-58261-767-8. Shaughnessy, Dan. The Curse of the Bambino. New York, Dutton. ISBN A0-525-24887-0. Shaughnessy, Dan. Reversing the Curse. Boston, Houghton Mifflin Company. ISBN A0-618-51748-0. External links, official website, Boston Red Sox at MLB.com, season-by-season records, Boston Red Sox video at ESPN Video Archive, Red Sox MLB News blog, 2004 World Series win in the Newsom Archive of front-page images from October 28, 2004.